The 4? It was for the right on 216. Yes.
Okay, we're recording.
Ready? Who's coming in?
They brought you one down here
getting one.
at the end.
Call the meeting to order. Could I have roll call, please?
Roll call. Okay. Mr. Frank Valley,
There.
Miss Janice Warner,
Here.
Miss Dana Gamblin,
Here.
Mr. Walt Matthews, Mr. Gary Gunnelsberger,
Here.
Miss Sharon Johnson,
Here.
Miss Allison Will. Here.
But swear to that, anyone? No.
Anybody wishing to give testimony, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, say I do.
I do.
Okay, can we have approval of a previous minute? From the minutes?
Make a motion to approve the minutes of August 31st. Second.
Motion on the floor, second. Any comments? Approval of the minutes. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Old business?
Old business, we have case number 21-07, Floyd Matthews, Matt Pool LTD, appealing the demolition of 1528 Columbus Ave, Sandusky, Ohio, 44870, parcel number 57-04877.000.
I just want to give you a brief update and a timeline as to the activities that have transpired since our last meeting. So our last meeting was on 8/31, 9/2, the building department and all electrical inspectors, plumbing inspectors, and building inspectors, along with the code inspectors, all met at Mr. Floyd's property. Inspection wrote up all violations. Mr. Floyd received all of those violations, and you should have a copy of those violations in your packet on the 3rd. The 7th, a public information request was submitted by Mr. Floyd for all open cases. 9/17, we spoke with Mr. England, or actually, there was a discussion between Mr. England and Mr. Floyd pertaining to the violations that needed to be corrected prior to the assessment being done. We scheduled a meeting for 9/23, where myself, Mr. England, Mr. Tom, and Mr. Shipp met, and we discussed all of the violations. We reviewed, excuse me. My heart is racing, yeah.
You okay?
What's that?
Are you okay?
I think I'm okay. All right, so we met to talk about the procedures moving forward pertaining to Mr. Floyd. At that meeting, it was determined that Mr. Floyd could meet with all of the lead contractors, go through the punch list and his risk assessment to determine what needed to be done prior to, during, and after the remediation of the lead. That same day, I met with Mr. Floyd and conveyed all his information to him. And that brings us to today.
Comments?
I didn't get your last sentence there. Can you speak up?
As far as,
I mean, what did he meet?
I met with Mr. Floyd on the 23rd
Right.
at 1 PM and conveyed the products of our meeting with Mr. England, Mr. Tom, and Mr. Ship.
Okay. What were the results? You met with them?
Right, so me, Mr. Ship, Mr. England, and Mr. Tom met at 9 AM on the 23rd. During that meeting, it was determined that Mr. Floyd would have access to all of the lead abatement contractors so that they could go through his punch list and the risk assessment to determine what items needed to be taken care of prior to, during, and after the remediation of the lead paint.
So when you say punch list, are you saying
List of
the
violations.
repairs?
The list of violations that you have in your packet.
And they have to be done before the lead is done?
No, the meeting with the lead contractors would determine what items needed to be taken care of prior to, during, and after the remediation of the lead.
Okay.
Okay?
I've got a couple questions for Mr. Rucker, just to clarify. And again, this is Mark Smith with Flynn Pine Cruise on behalf of Mr. Matthews. Based on this meeting, so just to make sure I understand, that took place on 9/23, and then you met with Mr. Matthews.
Yes.
Is it your position, or I guess the agency's position, for lack of a better word, that there are specific steps that can only be taken before the abatement is begun, during, and then some that have to wait until after?
Yes, and that would be determined with the conversation between Mr. Floyd and the lead abatement contractors.
Okay, and this information, just to be clear, was not conveyed to Mr. Matthews until the 23rd of September, correct?
Correct. That was the date that we determined that this was the process. I think up until that point, we were under the impression that we were on hold because of the health department, and that was not the case.
Okay, so would it be a fair assessment in your mind to say that Mr. Matthews finally received clear directions on how to proceed on the 23rd?
As far as the assessment with the lead contractors, yes. I think he had been given direction prior to that to obtain contractors to deal with the violation notices that he received on the 3rd of September.
Okay, just to clarify that real quick, is there, I guess what I'm having trouble understanding is what you're referring to in the 23rd only concerning lead abatement, or is that holistically the rehabilitation? There are certain things that can be done prior to lead abatement, certain during, and certain after.
So the meeting, as far as the products of that meeting, it basically had to do with the lead abatement itself. And the contractors that handle that have the expertise to let Mr. Floyd know what items can be done or needed to be done prior to their work, what could be done in conjunction with their work, and what could be done after the remediation of the lead.
Okay, and those items meaning the other list that was provided previously?
The list that was provided on the 3rd to Mr. Floyd from the electrical contract, or the electrical inspector, plumbing inspector, building inspector, and then our code compliance office.
And would it be fair to say that the reason for that is some of those items provided previously might interfere with the lead abatement if done out of order?
Yes.
Okay. And again, that information wasn't, as far as getting an order to this to proceed, was not given to Mr. Floyd until 9/23, correct?
As far as the lead abatement contractors and the process of meeting with them, yes, that information was given to him on the 23rd.
Okay.
Any other comments? Go ahead.
Okay, so do you have a listing then of
You
the
should have-
electric and plumbing?
You should have a copy of all the violations in your packet.
Well, all we got is a bunch of numbers up there. I mean, we didn't have anything, I don't know what the numbers mean unless you had to look every one of them up.
So it's broken down by specialty. So the first listing you have is a building inspector. Those should be building code violations. Then you have what's from the plumbing inspector, and I believe last maybe the electrical inspector. And as far as the specific violations on the building code portion, I'll refer that to Scott Tom, may be able to explain to you what those code listings specifically mean.
Okay,
Okay?
that would be probably helpful.
I mean,
And then
I think everything else is spelled out and explained in detail.
Okay. And are we going to hear from Mr. Matthews then? He was supposed to have financials
If you wish.
and cost
That's-
estimates. Pardon?
That's for the board to determine. If you want to hear from him, he can come up.
Okay, so do you have more to
Do you
present?
have any more questions for me?
Oh, I don't.
You said Mr. Tom is here?
Scott
Right
Thomas
here.
right there.
Okay. Will you just kind of, I guess you can go over and switch places with Mr. Rucker? Alrighty. Thank you. Will you just state your name for the record, please?
Scott Tom, Chief Building Official, City of Sandusky.
Okay. So Ms. Johnson has a few questions, so maybe you can just elaborate on certain things or how this process is working. I mean, I'm understanding that we have a notice and order of violation. We have different numbers of classifications of what needs to be done. But then in turn, they're saying something about the 23rd with the lead abatement coming up. So can you kind of just maybe
Well, in relation to the lead abatement, I think that meeting was more or less to determine, the sequence of how it should be tackled. It's kind of a fine tuning of the process. It's not really something that you can just cookie cutter, always do them all the same. So you got to kind of work through those situations.
Okay.
Is there any particular code sections you had questions on?
Well, I just thought you would have more to present. Maybe you don't have any further comments then?
I mean, I listed all the code sections, but I also went through today and pulled them all out, which I spent a significant amount of time doing that. So, I mean, if you got any questions on any particular one, I can read you the section.
Well, okay, let me just take this one. I'm seeing this one. It said basement first floor separation, floor assembly. Then it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 8 of these code violations. Can you kind of briefly, basically tell us what these 302.2 is, 30.223?
So it's the separation between floors?
Right.
Okay, a lot of that is there's a separation that has to be done between units. When you have 3 units, you got to have 1 hour between the units, and then whenever you have 2 units grouped and a third unit is bordering it, you got to have 2 hours between those 2 units. So it's specifying the separation, how it's got to, what sections it has to meet of the code. So like, on 302.2, code reads, residential structures with more than 2 dwelling units. In structures with more than 2 dwelling units, each grouping of 2 dwelling units shall be separated from an adjacent unit or an adjacent grouping of 2 units by 2 wall assemblies, each having a fire resistance rating of 1 hour when tested according to ASTM E119 or UL 263. And/or a floor assembly having a fire resistant rating of 2 hours when tested according to ASTM E119 or UL 263. Basically, that's the technical end of it.
Okay, so
So, I mean,
I'm looking at the number, let's just take 302.2. And like you've got a series of 6 or 8 of these things down here. So if Mr. Matthews wanted to know exactly what this means, he would have to go to your code?
well, I cited it this way because he's really going to need a design professional, like an architect. And an architect would look at these code sections and know what he has to address. And that's what George Pullis and I, when he was here that first meeting, we told Mr. Matthews and his council that you need to get a design professional on board to start addressing some of these things and get them on board.
If I could interject just for a second. On this notice that Mr. Matthews was given on 9/3/21 with all of the code sections, okay, what have you, it lists a link to use to go online and do the research to find out what the numbers refer to.
Okay.
And that's exactly what I did. I took the time to go online because the numbers really didn't mean anything to me. It wouldn't mean anything to anyone unless you knew exactly what the numbers pertain to. But I did the research and came up with 5 pages of spelled out instructions or descriptions of what each code section involves in order to proceed, in order to make the necessary corrections. So I am curious whether Mr. Matthews did the same. You had it available to you. Did you do the same thing?
I did not.
Have you looked at any of those sections at all?
I looked at all, looked at most of them now.
Okay. So it was there available for you to
Check out.
have an idea of how you were going to address the issues that are presenting themselves to you.
Is that on the paper telling you to look it up?
Just the code and the click, it's at the top.
Yeah, it's, excuse me, this is dated September 2nd, 2021, referring to 1528 Columbus Avenue, front building, former single-family home that was converted to a 3-family building at an unknown date and time. It lists everything provided by the building official, electrical code deficiencies, plumbing issues. But primarily, the first page and a portion, 2 paragraphs of the second page describe the Residential Code of Ohio issues, the numerical issues, and what the language is that pertains to those issues. I only went and researched it Saturday night and part of Sunday to have a better idea myself of what was involved.
But does it state on the paper, you know, to look them up in detail?
Yeah, it does.
It does?
It does.
Okay.
It goes into quite a bit of detail.
I do have a question. If the other ones wrote out the details of what needed to be done, why did he just give me codes?
Well, I'll let him answer that. I think I know the answer, but go ahead.
It took me 3 hours to dig this out today. I mean, literally. Today, to get in preparing for this hearing. So, I mean, it's like, did you do it?
I found out some things, but I didn't find
I'm just saying, I mean, it's like I was doing it in preparation for this meeting today, but it's like, yeah, I mean, we were trying to get you that list so you could go to your design professional and he'd have a list to start working on and get rolling on this thing as quick as possible. And that's what the purpose of us going there and doing that day was.
So you say, okay.
Do you have a design professional?
Pardon?
Do you have you hired a design professional? Great, because you need one, I mean, to address all these.
I've got some questions for Mr. Tom. Mr. Tom, how does this report that you generated in this punch of square with Ohio Building Code 102.7 existing structures, which specifies that a structure and the occupancy involved in that, basically the grandfathering statute, so existing structures and existing buildings does not require the removal, alteration, or abandonment of, or prevent the continuance of the occupancy of a lawfully existing building or structure unless such use is deemed to endanger the public safety or welfare. And serious hazard in this sense does not mean non-code compliant. So
Okay,
for a
you just
building-
answered your own question.
Let me finish the question. So if there's an existing building under the grandfather statute, serious hazard does not mean non-code compliant. So which of these are non-code compliant and which are serious hazards? Because they all can't be serious hazards.
You have some very serious hazards. That whole staircase
Which, okay,
is,
what I'm asking is.
to the
which
second
ones-
floor is a very serious hazard.
Which ones of these lists, which ones are serious hazards and which ones are simply non-code compliance?
They're not detailed that way. I mean, like I said, he needed to get it with a design professional, go through this. The section you said, a lot of these things aren't lawful because we're here looking to demo this property because of the deficiencies and the severe hazards. So,
what I'm
so what I'm saying, what I'm trying to say to you is, what that section you're using is not for something that's already got all these violations on it from code perspective, and we're at the demolition stage.
Okay, so because your position is because it's in the demolition stage that any non-compliant code violation needs to be brought to code.
Well, I'm bringing all the, you want me to go through the list?
No, I'm
I'll go through the list
asking a
right now
question.
for you, if you'd like. I'm serious, no problem. On the entire structure, one of it is maintenance. Residential building structures and buildings equipment shall be maintained in a safe sanitary condition. That is not in a safe sanitary condition in its current state.
Again, my
Okay?
question, that's not my question. With all due respect, you're not answering the question. The question is which of these violations on your list are considered serious hazards and which ones then are just considered non-code compliant? Because the law only requires him to fix serious hazards, not everything to bring it up to current code.
The second floor egress problem is a serious hazard.
Okay. All right.
The separation between units is a serious hazard. The lack of smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors would be serious hazards. The handrails and issues within the second floor would be a serious hazard, because there's no, that staircase is, the whole thing in general is a serious hazard, because there's no protection between the underside of it and the upper side where they're at that could stop fire. Typically, you have a separation of half-inch drywall minimum. There's nothing there, it's just balloon framed. So that would be a serious hazard. I mean, those are the biggest ones there. Your staircase on that exterior is encroached on the property line, so you're only about 33 inches away from, my guess, rough measurements. And, I mean, anything 5 feet or greater would be okay. So it's under that 5-foot mark.
Sure.
So it'd have to be 1 hour rating.
Wouldn't that also be grandfathered though, because of the time that it was put up? That
Not really, because it was never
applied?
an approved installation. So somebody did it without any knowledge of the building department. Because there's nothing, that would never been approved like that.
Okay. Are you aware of what the legal concept of estoppel means? That if something is done and it exists for a period of time and nobody bothers to cite anybody or cause an action to be filed on it, it's considered waived and therefore is grandfathered in?
But we're here for a demolition.
Sure.
And we are looking at ways to not demo this property.
Oh, I completely
So-
understand that. My question is, how is the staircase not being the adequate amount set back from a property line constitute a serious hazard to someone's health, safety, and well-being? I guess that's what I'm asking on that.
And part of this board's reason for my opinion of it, was what I was understanding anyway, was the board agreed to not demo the property.
Sure.
Back 2 or 3 hearings ago. And your client said that they would agree to a comprehensive rehabilitation plan for this property.
That was
part of the
in
deal.
July, I believe, not years ago. That was 3 months ago, not 3
Right. So part of that rehabilitation plan, I got to prove it. And if there's a serious hazard there, I cannot let it go forward.
No, I certainly understand that, and we agree.
So the grandfather clause, I mean, it's like,
Well, look,
see what I'm saying?
I agree with you that, and we all have an interest, especially Mr. Matthews, in making sure that any tenants he has are safe. Absolutely. I guess my question is, when we talk about what is a serious hazard versus non-code compliant, how is something being 12 inches too close to a property line a serious health hazard? I guess that's what my question is with that, as far as how you can equate the two.
What I'm saying is that second floor staircase, that is that exterior wall not being in compliance is just one of the components. There's a whole series of them there
That's been
that add up to a serious hazard. I mean,
I understand lack of handrails. I
It's
understand-
collectively, when you
all
look
that.
at all of those together, I mean, it's a very serious hazard.
Over 20-something years.
So those things, so we've got the staircase, the separation of the units, and the lack of detectors.
Yeah.
Okay, can I intervene for a second? So, it looks like we're not gonna have a meeting of the minds right now. You're questioning him on this, he's stating back to you on this, just back and forth. I guess my question is, being that you are the attorney, did you receive these
Yes, I
letters?
did. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I guess my question is, today you're asking about serious hazards constituting what's the difference of being code enforced. So I guess, being blunt, why are you addressing it today? I mean, if you had these letters, you could have contacted code enforcement at any point in time, or Mr. Tom, to get the specifics. What was constitute as a hazard, what was constitute as code enforcement. So it just seems like you guys are going back and forth, so we're gonna have to have a meeting of the mind somewhere, because at this point, I mean.
Certainly, ma'am. And I think part of the issue, and we did address this at the last meeting, there was a lot of confusion because, at least from our perspective, what had happened was there was a comprehensive rehabilitation plan entered into, but no punch list was ever getting to Mr. Matthews. It was kind of a, you have to hire your people, they'll tell you what's wrong, and they need to fix it. I think then we kind of moved to okay, if we need to know what the violations are to get them fixed. Now, when we're looking at the list of violations, we're saying, okay, what on this list by law needs to be fixed versus, and again, I don't mean to make light of this because this is not a light situation, but so-called fluff repairs, things that are not serious hazards which are required under Ohio law and Ohio building code, but things that actually need to be fixed. That's kind of the line of questioning today. Now, as far as why this hasn't come up before, because we didn't get the list before, this process and procedure wasn't given to Mr. Matthews till the 23rd of this month.
Only one thing was given to him on the 23rd, because here it says that he picked up this particular letter that we're covering on the 3rd. It was dated on the 2nd. So I guess, like I said again, my question in detail is, I understand that there was a meeting with the different department heads, water, electrical, and whatnot. So I didn't know if you participated in this. And I guess at that time, if these things were brought out, either you or Mr. Matthews at that point could have said something of, is this something that has to be done today ASAP, or can it be done after this or whatnot? So I'm just trying to get an understanding, because we could be here all day with this, and we're not.
Certainly, ma'am. Yeah, I'm sorry, what was the question there? I understand the board.
Basically,
position
the
on that.
question is, you're asking about what needs to be code enforced and what is constituted as a serious hazard. So I guess my question is, if you've already had the list, this should have got addressed before today's meeting, or you could have contacted Mr. Tom to see what was the serious hazard that needs to be done. But again, I'm just trying to get
Sure.
this moving along, because y'all been back and forth for too long for this. So I just want to get an understanding.
Ma'am, as you're certainly well aware, at any time there's an administrative hearing where the government or the state is determined to take an action, they have the burden of proof to prove things in accordance with Ohio law. In this case, they would have the burden of proving things are serious hazards, and that's simply what we're asking for direction on. By all means, we're certainly trying to work with city and code, and I know Mr. Matthews has been in contact with Mr. Tom, with Mr. Rucker, with Mr. Ship consistently since the 3rd. Again, most of this stuff he has been doing on his own as his attorney. You know, I'm not privy to every time he calls the inspector or anything like that, or otherwise I'd be spending all my time at his property instead of dealing with my multitude of other cases. But I'm just trying to narrow down for Mr. Matthews' benefit what specifically the items need to be done, as opposed to just an entire laundry list of things, to make sure that he is doing what he has to do to hit the big things first, and then the rest can go on accordingly.
If I may, my question to whomever, I don't know who's representing this board legally, but is it our responsibility to decide what's serious conditions and not? we're here to decide if we're going to demo, right?
Mhm.
So do we need to be a part of the conversation if this is a serious violation and this is not? I don't know if we need legal on that or not, or if somebody know the answer to that. If it's our role, it's fine, because I do agree with Ms. Gamlin. Sorry, I got the old name.
You're fine.
We don't want to be here all day while y'all hashing out what's code violation and what's a serious condition. So can anybody answer that question? Is that the board's responsibility?
Mr. Tom, I'm curious, after the list came out.
No answer to my question?
I think this.
I think legal wants to
Hold
come
on
up
for a
here.
minute, Sharon.
Okay,
If you would like to come up to the podium, please, young lady,
thank you.
state your name for the record.
Yes, my name is Sarah Chaponi. I'm the Assistant Law Director.
Okay.
However, I am not barred yet. I'm literally technically not an attorney yet. I will be at the end of October. I can't answer legal questions as of right now, but I can take your question to Brendan Heil for you
Okay.
and table this question and get the answer back to you as soon as possible.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
If I may, just a short answer, if you ma'am, I think ultimately it would be a question for the board because whether or not he's in agreement with the comprehensive rehabilitation plan is going to be a board consideration as to whether or not he's remedied all the serious hazards. So I think ultimately it will be a question for the board, maybe not today, but whether that plan has
So
been
it's-
satisfied or not
so
and
the-
been complied with, I think would be a question for the board.
So we will have to determine what's serious and what's code violation. The Housing Appeals Board.
Yes, I think whether he has successfully complied with the rehabilitation
I can see compliance
plan.
to
Yeah.
the order, but you guys are going through he's mentioned about an inch on the floor and 3. We don't know that. I don't know. That shouldn't insult y'all intelligence. Okay.
But we were asked to go through and find the different code violations. That's what you guys asked for.
Certainly.
So that's what we did. You didn't ask for us to specify, what's serious hazard versus just a code violation. You wanted to know what needed to be addressed.
Correct. What
And we
needed to
give
be
you a
addressed
list of what
was the
needed to be
demolition
addressed.
order. That's what we had asked for. And I apologize if I wasn't specific enough on that, then I certainly apologize for that.
Because we feel that you
Okay, stop
grouping
for 1 second. Mr. Matthews, come to the podium, please.
it.
Mr. Rucker,
Yes, ma'am.
you okay? I see you holding yourself
Good.
there. Okay,
good.
and Mr. Tom, thank you. Mr. Matthews,
We don't feel all of it is serious is why. And the meeting and the procedure and what they're calling keeps getting changed and added on or not. So we're confused what he's calling serious or not because a smoke detector wasn't on it, but I put them in automatically. So putting that on wouldn't even be an argument. The stairwell that his baby, he's grouping in with all the other stuff to make it so serious. So we pretty much, he think we can't do the project anyway, that he think it'll hinder it and stop it. I think his main objective is to stop this thing and demo it. All he knows is a demo. He don't know to work with. He don't know nothing but. He don't try to tell me nothing. He didn't tell me nothing in detail. He didn't elaborate on nothing. He didn't get nobody to agree with him in the first meeting when the inspectors came out all together. So they had another meeting. He had to have his architect come out and explain it to me, which didn't make any more sense then either. Because all we seen was it may need to be braced. He wanted it tore off because it's too close to this house. No matter whether the line is too close or not, it's been there. So if it can be used, if material can be used to get that firewall, whatever, why not? Why not? Don't just take a building because you can, you got all this authority he got and just misuse it. I don't think that's fair. He didn't explain none of that. He don't try to explain none of that. He never tries to work with me. When I met him the very first time, I was supposed to put the porch on. I put the porch on there, and I got the permit. I didn't know I had to have it at the time, but I got one. When I asked him what I have to do to get permit, he said, you got to have a drawing. So I didn't know you had to have a professional drawing. I drew up something. He said, well, I got to have a professional drawing. I said, where am I going to get that at? I don't know. His secretary said, tell him to go to Menards. They do it for free. He knew that. He didn't offer that. That was free. That was simple. He don't offer me nothing. He looking around to find stuff to add on to shut it down. His main objective is to shut it down. He got something personal against me, I feel, or maybe he just don't like black people. I don't know what it is.
No.
I'm telling you what I feel. I'm with him. When he come there, I don't get no vibes like he in love or he just trying to be kosher. All he talks at this meeting is, it's got to be demo, it's got to be this. It never worked with. And everybody print the examples of what they got to do to the building. The plumber writes his out. The electrician writes his out. He put down 50 codes. He got a secretary right there. It took him a day and a half. He got a secretary. She figured out. I don't get that. He not working for me. He not working for the citizens. Or maybe you just work for favors.
No, we're not gonna say that. We're not gonna start.
Well, I'm not getting any extra consideration, I feel, on my building, on what he's calling is demo.
Well, when you met with the other inspectors, what did they say?
They told me what I need to be done, specifically.
And so far, have you started? Have you done?
I wasn't supposed to start. I was supposed to get the total cost, and then that was supposed to be at this meeting, get the total cost of the abatement and the violations, put them together, and tell them I can do it or not. That's what this meeting was supposed to have been about, based on what they told me. And then in the middle of the road, he keep changing.
Well,
In the middle of the road, he wants everything done before they did.
Well, I'm gonna ask today, because I wasn't here at the other meeting, so they asked you to get a proposal of how much. Do you have that?
I got some. I can't get no contractors out there. I called 40 or 50. I got 5. 2 of them gave me paperwork. That's it. As you know, it's just a crisis. Can't get nobody to do nothing right now.
Hold on, Mr. Gary wants to say something.
As long as you're there at the stand. Let's talk about the basis of the issue. And it comes down to lead paint abatement. This has been going on for a long, long time, and you've had plenty of opportunity to resolve this. Why haven't you?
Resolve what? In what way?
The lead paint abatement.
I can't do the abatement because I'm waiting on getting my violations fixed. And
No. Let's back up. This hasn't happened overnight.
Okay.
This is long-standing. You know it is.
Okay.
You've been given many opportunities to resolve it. Why haven't you? If you had, we wouldn't be in this discussion right now.
There's a procedure we're trying to follow that allows funding for me to do this.
That's right.
All of that got to be included in with the cost to see if I can do it. You got to get the total number to know if you can do something.
And this has happened from years ago, though.
No, it ain't happened for years ago. Before I painted it, I got by. This is new. This is since April. This ain't no years ago. The first one they presented to me, I didn't have enough money to do the abatement because I had to have money to go along with it. This time I do, so I'm trying to get the total number so I can put it to bed. But he keeps adding on.
Well, let me ask you this. I read the minutes from the last meeting, and at this meeting, you're supposed to provide
Cost and finances.
cost and personal finance to support whatever work needs to be done. Have you submitted any of that?
I have not submitted it.
You're required to.
Okay.
You have to get people out there to give estimates.
At a minimum, you are required to submit written documentation that proves you have the funding to move forward with whatever happens.
I did plan to present. I figured I needed these numbers here to present that.
There is no point in moving forward with anything else unless it is proven that you can afford to do the work.
I agree.
Do you agree?
I agree.
I mean, the health department isn't going to involve themselves with,
How do I know what the numbers are? I got some money. How do I know what the numbers are? I need estimates from these people along with the abatement people.
you need to provide to Mr. Tom documentation that proves that you have the funding available to handle whatever this lead paint abatement is going to cost. Plus, in your mind, it's interesting. Lawfully existing is a very loaded phrase. I'm sorry. And I come from code enforcement. So you were supposed to provide proof that you have the funding. Did you do that?
What funding am I supplying for?
Proof of financial ability to make repairs to that structure. The lead abatement and whatever.
Money, some money, what do I present? I'm asking, I don't know what I present.
Okay, I'm gonna step in here. You're supposed to present a comprehensive plan to tell us, if it's gonna cost you $50,000, do you have the $50,000 to do it?
I don't have 50,000 to do it.
Okay, so again, that's why you're supposed to bring us a plan. I'm just giving you a ballpark number. It could
Okay.
be less than that.
Okay.
But from what I'm reading in the notes and what he's asking is, you were supposed to present that today, and that's what they wanna know.
Okay.
I didn't think I needed, I wasn't clear on how or what kind of funding how I was supposed to present the funding, because I don't know what the abatement is gonna, but tell me that.
Who was that guy that came out and told you?
I had the abatement guy come out Saturday. He wouldn't provide me an estimate. So how am I gonna know the cost of anything if I don't know where I'm going? I'm just gonna show you a banking account? I don't know what the cost is.
Or possibly like a letter from the bank that says they would, against, I guess, the
Financing.
A bank
yeah.
from what?
Letter of credit.
A letter of credit, yes, thank you.
Okay.
A letter of credit from your bank, like that could have been presented today, just saying that you have available this amount of credit to cover the 1528 or whatever. That, I guess that's what I was thinking we would have, or even something more comprehensive, but I understand not having that, but there's just nothing for us to.
At least he can get a letter of credit from his bank, and the bank states that you're good for this sum of money. Okay? At least get that from your bank. If you
What
cannot,
am I getting a loan for? I don't know how much.
Wait a minute. I'm Gail Matthews, I'm Floyd's wife. Who was that guy that came out there that told you he knows all about this?
Handyman.
Okay. He said he knew
Bob England
all
sent
about
him, he
it.
gave me the number.
What? I didn't hear the name.
Handyman, you gave me the number.
Didn't he say?
He talked to him, he gave him the number.
He gave him.
They know all the stuff about the building before I even talked to him, where he described all of this stuff to me. I thought that was out of line. I thought that was totally out of line. I thought I should get to present what's gotta be done with my building. He comes in and tell me what he can't do and what I gotta do and all this stuff before I even get there.
He told
So I
you-
thought it was wrong for him to discuss my project with him and him before, just send him to me if he's supposed to be I'm supposed to use him. Get that?
sir, how much are you comfortable with putting into this project? How much do you think? I think before you said something up to 15,000.
15, 20, I don't know. I don't know what I'm comfortable with. I'm getting funding from other people maybe too sometimes. So I don't know what the number is. I'm trying to see what I'm up against so I can know what to do. I won't waste your time if I get some numbers.
This is like,
This was gonna be, not just come in and tell you I'm good for 100,000. Or he'll go spend 100,000 with him because he bad on. He grouping everything together like all of it is a hazard to everybody, and it ain't. I put smoke detectors in all the time. Walls can, he talking about tear the whole thing off. He needs a firewall. A firewall could be material. He don't have to tear it all off to do that. He bent on grouping this all together so he can shut the project down for the demo that's his baby.
Well, usually,
Period.
I would just say this. Usually, when you get a list like this, you have someone come in there who is going to tell you what you're estimating looking at.
Exactly.
And at that point, this is what you bring to us to say,
Exactly.
John Brown, whoever, estimated so much. But then you also have to bring to us to say, if he tells you a specific number, we need to know that you can financially do this. Other than this, I've had people that say they could do the 35,000 and look up, you're back here 3 more years from now, back in front of this same board, and nothing got done.
What's the number?
You don't know, and let me tell you something. The man wouldn't even give him an estimate after he got done talking to you.
I asked him for an estimate, he wouldn't give me an estimate. I don't know no numbers. You can't, go ahead.
Okay, only thing I want to say, because this is going, you can get estimates offline. All we wanted you to do, I would like to speak, because I wasn't at the last meeting, but I'm hearing that you're supposed to come here with a comprehensive plan. It's a plan to get some type of number. The plan is not here. I think that's what we really need to focus on. We're going around, we're blaming people, and it's about that. The assignment was, come to this meeting with a comprehensive plan. You have to do it the best way you can. Go online to see how much it costs to put a firewall or something with an estimated plan. Then when you get your dollar amount, then tell us how you're going to fund it. And then that was what we're supposed to look at today. We're going all around, we're blaming people. I can't do this, I can't do that. The onus, Mr. Matthews, was on you to bring that to us.
We can't
I
get it.
didn't get it. I called 40
I just
people to
gave
come
you,
out.
but can you go online and
You
say?
just gave me.
Okay, so go online, look and bring us something, because right now, with what we have, we should order the demolition, because what we asked for was not done. We're here to work. I do believe we're going into water where we should not be. We're blaming each other. I don't want to hear all that. I really don't.
either.
Lovingly, I don't want to hear that. I want to come in, look at the facts, we make a decision, and we move on.
Exactly.
We want the best for you and the city. Don't blame each other. Don't talk about this racism stuff. This country's going through too much. You got me on my soapbox.
Still
For us to
going through.
sit here and do this.
I agree.
We're all in this community together. So let's
I
work
agree.
together. I don't know what this board wants to do, but we need to put some closure. I say lovingly, come back with a comprehensive plan, if that's what they vote for, so we can move on.
That's what we tried to do. We gotta
You
get.
didn't try lovingly
Yes, we
because you didn't
did.
bring me nothing.
Yes, we did. We talked to, he talked to a licensed,
But you were supposed to bring it to the board.
if he won't
what
give
to
it
the
to you,
A comprehensive plan.
if he won't give it, if he won't print it out
So
and
then,
give it to us, what
so
are we
then
to
if
do?
we don't have a plan, what we should do is demolition.
Okay, I'm gonna just make this suggestion, and then we're gonna shut this down.
Thank you.
I'm gonna take your advice. I'm gonna give you to our next meeting, which is within the next 30 days. If you do not come in here with a plan, I don't want to hear no more excuses. We are going to vote to tear this down.
That's right.
That's the end of the story.
That's it.
So if you gotta call 50 people and ask them over the phone, and I'm saying, write it down.
I wrote it down.
But you didn't bring it to us.
But you didn't present it to us.
Well, this is all new to us. We got
No, I don't want to hear.
Wait a minute. This is all new to
Okay,
us.
done.
Hold off.
So you understand what we want?
Hold off. I want
right.
a motion on the floor.
I'm gonna make a motion that we need the comprehensive plan by the next board meeting, which is 30 days from now, period,
And financials.
and financials.
Yep.
May I intervene just for one moment?
Yes.
Need a second.
I'm sorry, he's
He got,
saying something. Mr. Gunnelsberger is talking.
He wants to say something.
Oh, you second?
Mr. Smith,
Yes, sir.
does this sound reasonable to you? You're nodding your head,
I'm,
and it's,
I do think it's reasonable to give him 30 days to get a letter of credit, so to speak, from the bank. The question I think that the bank is probably going to have, at least in my experience, and, you know, looking at this holistically, is they're going to say, okay, for how much are you looking at taking a loan for? And unless he can get written estimates from contractors and add it up, including the cost of the abatement, he doesn't know what he's looking to get financing for. That I think that's the issue. Part of this is, and I know Mr. Matthews has provided me, I've seen the list when we met a couple weeks ago. He has called anywhere between 30 and 50 contractors. He's making phone calls. The problem is people don't show up or they don't provide written estimates. He has certainly been working on this and trying to get licensed professionals out, because we were advised that it has to be a licensed professional contractor approved by the city to do this. So, and ma'am, I know you weren't here last week, but given those are the parameters he's working with, I don't think this board would accept him simply going online and printing out and.
at least it's something to work with, sir.
It's something.
Something to
It's
work
better
with.
than, I mean, because this is back and forth. It's just ridiculous. I mean, you as his attorney, if you seen where he talked to somebody, then you might be able to back him up with a letter, on your letterhead, to say that he did this.
Your letterhead.
So at the end of the day, like I said, this is what's out there, this is the offer.
Absolutely. So I think I do think it is reasonable for him to speak to a bank in the next 30 days and say, hey, I need pre-approval up to, if we have to pick a number, we'll pick a number. I don't think that's
Right.
unreasonable by any means.
Then I think that is probably the best way to go. Put it out, I'm sorry?
I didn't know that, because every meeting it gives up something else. Because before, there wasn't a punch list where he just gave me a list of all these violations, and what do I fix? I fix just go in there and read about everything in the building. Nobody has money for that.
Well, you got the list.
And with all due respect, nobody in here is gonna go online to get an estimate that another contractor is gonna say a different price.
Yeah,
It's just an estimate, it's not the final
I do think it's reasonable
figures.
to give 30 days for him to talk to the bank and get a letter and say, hey, he's pre-approved for X amount. I think a pre-approval letter, if the board would be okay with a pre-approval letter.
That's something.
up
But
to
we
X
also need a
amount.
plan. We also need, we can't just take the financial.
We need the
We have to
cost.
say, I mean,
Yeah.
he needs to maybe call people from Toledo, from Cleveland, from Mansfield, from Columbus.
All the above.
Okay, well, the bottom line is this. Comprehensive plan and financial letter, period. That's it.
Done.
So how it gets done,
Done.
thank you. All right.
Second,
When I know I do it.
second.
It's been moved in second.
No exception.
I meant, motion on the floor, duly seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
You got roll call.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Gundelsberger?
Yes.
Please take a
Yes.
vote.
Yeah. Ms. Gamelin?
Yes.
Ms. Will?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Valley?
Yes.
Ms. Warner?
I've been telling you about that.
Okay.
Motion carried.
Can I present something for the meeting?
You can speak to us after that. We have another case to hear. So. Kelly. We gonna keep this moving. Second case. Go ahead.
Under new business, we have case number 21-09. James Kimberlin is appealing the second administrative penalty for 13 Catalina Drive, Sandusky, Ohio, 44870.
Okay.
It's right here.
Too much.
That's the end of the day, it's too stressful.
Like, why we gotta do all that?
Have it all on your screens?
Yeah, we have it up,
Oh,
we have it up here. Mhm.
It should just turn right on.
It's here, it's coming up on our,
Mine was here.
yeah, mine was.
Those screens?
We got pictures.
It should just automatically.
It's on our code, it's on the,
Yeah.
it's on the desk.
Yeah, we have, yeah.
I mean, they have it on.
Everybody can see it
Oh, can he,
Yeah, we
he
can
can
see
come
it.
up there if he wants to see it then.
Yeah, we have
That works.
pictures as
All right, we'll
well.
just do that.
Doesn't show the property thing.
What?
Doesn't show the property, it just tells you the address.
Right, he'll go through the slideshow for you.
Okay.
Good afternoon, I'm Ron Snyder, I'm a code compliance officer with the city of Sandusky. Just to give you a little bit of an understanding, the property that we're referring to is number 13 Catalina Drive, Sandusky, Ohio, parcel number 57-03926.000. Property owner, Mr. Kimberlin, I believe is here. Is there? Okay. I started code compliance June 21st of this year. Day after, basically, we were provided with a packet from a gentleman that resides on First Street in the area of Catalina. Now, this packet consisted of a number of different code, what he felt were code infractions at a number of different properties. One such property was that number Catalina Drive. We went out to that property, myself and Officer Ship, and at that point in time, we did notice that there was some aesthetic issues to the west side of the Catalina boathouses. There had been photographs that were taken at that point in time, but until we looked into it further, it was kind of held. When we got back basically to the office, if you notice the boathouse is there on your screen. It's not readily identified at this point. It will be momentarily. Okay, that would be number 13 Catalina Drive. I'm sorry if this is a little hard to see on the smaller monitors. Okay, this was designated for the bigger monitors. What I found when we got back it was brought to my attention, Code Compliance Officer Ship, that a previous housing supervisor had already worked on a number of issues with these same boathouses. This would have been back in 2018. Now, at that point in time, it would have been Amanda McLean who had looked into these. These boathouses consisted of 18 separate boathouses at that point in time. Letters would have been sent, correspondence to the property owners with an attempt to abate the aesthetic issues or the paint issues on the backside of these boathouses. All of those had been abated except for 3 units, number 13 being one of the 3. Reinspection was scheduled a previous code compliance officer, which would have been, she is no longer in code compliance, but it was set, she had established in April, I believe it was, I had reopened a case regarding unit number 13 and had scheduled a June 10th reinspection of that unit. Again, more photographs were taken, and I had a discussion with our housing supervisor regarding this matter, and due to the close proximity of the reinspection,
unknown caller,
being so close to the actual date of my inspection, we went ahead, instead of refiling that as a time lapse, and filed it as being continuous or ongoing. As we can see here, the time progression on these photographs is taken and there's not any changes. This is even after these letters have been sent to the property owner indicating that we had an issue. The first letter that would have been sent to Mr. Kimberlin, I guess after being initially informed by Ms. McLean, had indicated that there was the exterior of the building needed to be addressed, as well as the garage door. If you see the overhead door there, it needed a little bit of attention. July 7th, not only was an inspection conducted, but a penalty letter was drafted along with an invoice for $100 at this point because no work had been done. The letter also indicated a second reinspection date of August 10th of 2021. I believe July 13, 2021, Mr. Kimberlin and myself had a telephone conversation regarding being penalized, the plan of action to rectify the documented issues. He indicated that he was planning on having an estimate completed for the work. July 13th continued. Mr. Kimberlin was given my email address and encouraged to send me a copy of the estimate, which would show the attempt to achieve compliance. Then a possible time extension could be granted, provided the estimate became contractual. As of August 9th of 2021, no further correspondence had been received from Mr. Kimberlin, right, regarding the aforementioned estimates. August 10th would have been the date for the second reinspection. Again, this is the front of the unit. No change as far as our unit had been made even at this point. He was subsequently issued a second penalty letter with an invoice of $500. August 12th, I got a message from Mr. Kimberlin with return telephone call being made. He claimed that he was in the process of purchasing a new overhead door and was in communication with other property owners about possibly having the properties painted in conjunction with those other two. August 12th continued. I explained to Mr. Kimberlin and appreciated his willingness and attempts to reach compliance. However, he had taken no positive steps toward the compliance. If you've noted the date that we had this conversation was 2 days after the indication of the reinspection. He expressed his discontent when I explained that the property had not been inspected. It had already been inspected, prior to that, and no changes had been made. Therefore, additional penalties were assessed. Mr. Kimberlin questioned what course of action he had at this point. He was explained since we were past the due date to file an appeal, first penalty, that did subsequently get paid. Regardless of the second penalty, Mr. Kimberlin was advised that he was within the timeframes to go ahead and address this matter to the Housing Appeals Board. August 16th, 2021, Mr. Kimberlin did in fact file for the appeal. And August 30th, the payment was made for the first penalty that was assessed. As of today's date of September 28th, I'm sorry, just go back, you'll notice that the construction of the door has not altered. It's my impression and my understanding, Mr. Kimberlin had forwarded some photographs indicating that he had painted the door. But as far as the door itself or the area around the door, we still have an aesthetic issue there. That would conclude my presentation, and I'm willing to take any questions anyone may have.
Sir, I'm confused about whether or not he's painting this or replacing the door completely.
And that would be a question that you would have to have for Mr. Kimberlin on what his intent is. As of today's date, it only appears as if he has painted the door and not subsequently replaced it.
But he had told you he was going to replace it, didn't he?
That was an option that he was looking at the time we had conversation, yes.
Okay, but it looks like it needs more than paint. It looks like the boards need replacing also.
I would concur.
Okay.
Mr. Kimberlin, is he here?
Yes, ma'am. He's
Okay.
Mr. Kimberlin, did you have any painting done? Or I'm sorry, is this number 13 Catalina? Because on what's on our screen, it says Bimini.
That is a misprint, ma'am.
Okay. So at your property, you have had painting done?
Yes, I have a few things, if it's my turn, it'd be fine with me. Clear up a little bit of the...
Can you go up to the podium then and talk?
Absolutely.
And it's hard to make it out with your mask on.
I thought that was a requirement for being in here, so that will not be a problem.
They've been taking it off just for speaking up there.
Can you, will you state your name just for the record, please?
Yes, I'm James Kimberlin, and I'm immunosuppressant, that's why I wear a mask most of the time. First of all, I'd like to thank you for this opportunity, but as the timeline, there were a few things missed. I never received anything in 2018. I never received anything until the letter that Mr. Snyder talked about on July 7th. I did return his call on the 13th, as he said, and then I was on vacation for 2 weeks afterwards. And we had not, after I returned his call on the 13th, we didn't have any communications. And I was gone for 2 weeks until the 1st, and I did call him on the 3rd, which is the week prior to the inspection of the 10th. And we had a lengthy discussion on what was going to happen or how these things went, and I told him I'd already been making phone calls. As the last gentleman stated, I can't get anybody to do anything. I've been calling all over, trying to get someone out there to paint them. It's too small of a job for some guys. Other guys don't have barges or to get out on the water. I have no other way of getting out there. I'm not, go ahead.
Mr. Kimberlin, if I could just pause you just for a second. I've got a notice here dated December 7th, 2018 that was sent to you by Amanda McLean. with a certified mailing signed by James Kimberlin.
I do not recall that at all, no.
Okay, well,
And that was shortly after my wife passed, and I didn't spend much time there at that place at that time.
nonetheless,
It could have been.
nonetheless, you
Okay.
were notified.
Okay, thank you for the correction. That's fine.
You were notified, and at the
2018.
time, I'm sorry?
2018?
Yes. At the time, Ms. McLean indicated that what the nature of the repair needed to be, and also, she said, due to the unusual nature of painting a boathouse, the city has extended the date for compliance until August 31st of 2019. So, what did you do then?
I don't recall receiving that, and so I did nothing. Again, I wasn't there at the boathouse. I'm not a boater, so I don't
Well, it
see the
doesn't matter if
backside
you're a
of it.
boater or not.
Well, I
You
don't
were
see the
owner.
backside of it.
You were the owner in 2014.
I was.
Yes. So you were responsible for maintenance. Okay. So.
Point?
I'm sorry?
Your point, I don't understand your
The point is.
If I don't recall that, I
the
just
po-
don't
Well,
recall
you
it.
may not recall it. The point is that you were notified.
Okay.
We've got a certified document here that says that on this date, you signed it, your name.
I said, that's fine, I don't recall it. You have
Okay.
it. That's proof that you have it, okay.
Okay.
To move forward with what, obviously there's lapse in people not there and not following up with it other than myself. But when I received these letters and started acting on them, I did call him 7 days prior to the next inspection, asked him, said, all you have to do is communicate. We communicated, talked to him, told him I couldn't get people to paint it. I couldn't get people to come out and give me an estimate because it does look like it needs more than just painting. It needs repair and or replaced. I couldn't get people to come out there and give me estimates on replacing it. So then I finally called him back on the 12th and told him that I did have an estimate from DMN Services, which was a diamond door. Had him come out and give me an actually handwritten estimate was all he would give me, and said it would be, we call 6 to 8 months before I could even get a door. Yeah, total lead time 5 to 6 months, sorry, and the cost of $8,800 to remove and replace this door. And he said he'd be lucky to be able to get them that time because of COVID. Everybody's been having trouble getting the doors and material. And I stated that in the letter and an email to Mr. Snyder. So I have been making attempts to get this done. So also I called and he said, well, at that time on the 12th, he said he was already out there on the 10th. And where he said I expressed displeasure was because I talked to him on the 3rd and told him I was working on this. And he said, as long as you're working on it and let us know where we're at, we'll work with you. And then turn around and get this fine that we're talking about at $500. So I still continue working on it, did get the estimate of that, and in fact tried to paint it myself, which I have no way of getting out there. I don't have a barge or anything. So I laid the door up on the edge, 20 feet in the air, and a friend of mine helped me climb up on top of it, and we rolled it paint on the door so that I was trying to do something. You know, I spent several $100s on paint trying to do something. I couldn't repair it from up there because I couldn't put the weight on the door. So at this point, I'm still, trying to do good faith and show you that I'm trying to do something. I still have that door still ordered, but I'm not going to, he wanted me to give him the money for it. I'm not going to pay almost $10,000 for a door I can't have for 6 months. I don't know about you, but it's a lot of money to me. So the plan was to try to find someone else. And as of yesterday, I found a contractor that's going to be doing some work over on Bimini to do some sheet piling that's going to have some barges in the area. So he might possibly be able to let me use that and come over and allow me to use one on the weekend or something while his crew's not there, and I'll be able to go over there and paint it. So I'm still, again, been trying to show good faith. That's why I appealed this one. I thought I did with the first one. I paid the first $100 because I was past the time. I was out of town when I got that, and that was my fault. I'm not trying to shy at anything, but with this COVID, man, I can't get anybody to do anything. and I make calls. I work a lot of hours, and for me to try to do that, I have elderly mother. Actually, my fiance and I have parents both have Alzheimer's, and we're busy, so it's hard for me to do those things too.
Yeah.
I'm trying, so that's why I appealed this, and they give me some time to get these things done. Yes, ma'am.
Sir, you said you have a door on order, or?
Yes, I've actually talked to the guy at Diamond Door several times, and he has several in order, and said that if anything that comes through at any time for him, that would be the size that I have, that he would let me know ahead of time, and we should get something scheduled just to replace it. But again, the last 2 days, I've just found a contractor that may be able to get me a barge, and we can do some repairs to it.
Okay,
Replace
so
the panels and stuff like that.
how long, you said 8 to 9 months to get the door?
Let me see, 5 to 6 months.
5 to 6 months?
Yes.
And how much will that cost?
$8,800.
$8,800, okay.
Yes. I have that.
So have you signed a contract
I
then?
did not sign a contract with him because, again, I've been continuing to try to fix it before that. He did say he'd put the order in for me, but if he gets it to where it's there, I have to go pay for it.
Okay, and you have a piece of paper on that?
Yes, that's what he signed. I think I
Can you get
emailed
that
it to you
and copy that?
Said that.
Got nothing but from you, Jim.
Can I get a copy of that so I can have this? Is this your
You can have,
only?
I have a copy of it.
Oh,
That's fine.
okay.
You can have
All
that
right,
one.
I'll
Yes.
place this on the record then.
Okay.
Mr. Kimberlin, so just to be clear about that door, is it coming? Or you have told him, I don't want to pay, like normally they'll ask for like a half down, and when it is installed, you pay
Yes.
the rest. I don't understand, you're just saying like, well, it might be coming in, he might get one.
If there are, that he has several doors ordered, that I did not have to give him a down payment now to lock in for that for 5 or 6 months. He said that as we get closer, he said he may require me to put a deposit down, and most of the part of that's going to be the labor of removing that door. So I have not entered into contract with him.
Okay.
And I have been looking for other sources to either repair it or paint it up until now.
And then one question, which I think is probably directed toward Mr. Snyder, is it just the door itself or the entire back structure, like the surrounding structure?
The letter that he would have been sent by, at that time, Code Officer Kasopoulos would have indicated that the garage door needed attention and that the exterior or the aesthetics, the surface of the structure.
So the entire, not just the door?
Yeah, they said the two sides, but that's corrugated steel, and I don't see why that needed to be painted. It's corrugated steel. But I can paint that. That's, when I get this, when I get this thing, I can paint the whole back of it. My problem is getting out there and being able to do anything to it.
I'm just trying to be clear in case we do, allow for any time, which I'm not saying we are. I'm just asking questions. It is not just for the door, it's for the entire water-facing side of the structure.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
If I could,
Pictures, I don't know if you guys had those, and it shows the damage to it, but that was me on top of the thing, trying to paint it at the time.
Hold on, Mr. Kimberlin, Mr. Gundelberger.
if I could, just to explain, the way I understand this particular section, 1341.13A4, having to do with exterior surface maintenance, okay, and this was indicated in her letter at that time, or in her notice of violation. Surfaces of buildings on a premises shall be clean and maintained in good repair so as to provide sufficient covering and protection of the structural surface underneath against deterioration with paint, stucco, aluminum, vinyl siding, or other approved exterior grade waterproofing materials. So that is the reason why it's required to be maintained.
And that's what it's maintained. If it's corrugated steel, that's a.
If it's rusting.
It wasn't rusting. Someone had painted it prior to, and we're going to remove it. But I can paint it. That's what. Tell me what we need to do. That's all I need to know.
I think a good clarification with that would be is the boathouse that would be to the north of 13, and it shows that would be unit 14 of the deterioration of that boathouse. That too is being addressed. but that's showing what the condition of that corrugated material will do over a period of time without proper surface.
And that's my point in mentioning that particular section and why it is necessary to maintain the surface.
So, sir, what are you leaning towards? Are you leaning on just fixing up the boards and painting, or are you going to go with a new door?
If I can paint it and fix it, absolutely, because that saves me $10,000. But if it needs to be replaced, I'll have to do that. Whatever I'm going to have to do to rectify it.
And how long do you think you'll make a decision on that?
I guess it isn't, I've already made the decision to do it. I just can't get people out there to do it. I've been calling around the same, and I think I indicated that to Mr. Snyder, that I've made several phone calls. I've asked if you all had anybody that I can call that can come out and do it. I've called painters. A lot of them don't do over the water. And then some of the bigger guys, they don't have time, and the job's too small for them. I've been attempting ever since I got the first letter back in July, that I've been trying to find people and making calls. But again, with this COVID thing, people, are busy. I don't understand it. That's if they're even working.
Is there a specialist? I would think there'd be kind of like a specialist on something like this.
That I do not know.
You could call.
No, I asked the neighbors. Obviously, she said that they did it back in 2018, and obviously 3 of us were not told anything about that. They've done that. I'm not a boater. I'm not in the lake. There's a couple years ago they did all the roofs, and they never said anything to us either. So I don't know. Who I asked them who they had. No one's responded to me. Actually, a couple of the guys down there, and I expressed that to Mr. Snyder, had told me that they might be able to come out and help me, but they've never responded back to me after that discussion. There's 2 other guys that actually live down there.
So we're not only looking at the door, but we're looking at all that metal around the door that has to be repaired and painted.
Yep. If that's what you need to do, yes.
What we're here for today is the administrative penalty to see the second one. He paid the first one, he didn't pay the second one.
Yes.
And we've been dealing with this, well, Angie put some letters in 2018, we're now in 2021. So,
This has been going on since 2018?
yes. And
I haven't, again, I must have signed for it, yes, I understand that. But I'm telling you, as soon as I got the one in July, I've been on it ever since. I've been in communications with them. I think I've been making a good faith effort. I don't see that there's a degree of harm to the public safety or anything else. That's not being condemned, it's not falling down. It's someone else on the other side that don't like looking at it. I'm sorry, those were built in 1943, and his was built 2 years ago. Sometimes that I can show you pictures of them up and down all the other boathouses. Are we patrolling those too? I don't know. We're here to talk about mine. I just don't think that $500 fine, and I've been working on it, been communicating to you all that I'm trying to do something. If you have a contractor, let me know. I'll hire him right now. It's not lack of funds, it's nothing like that. It's just I need help.
Mr. Kimberlin, if I could, the person you talked to about the door, about making a door for you, is that right?
Yes.
You need to enter into a contractual agreement with them. Will they install the door? They'll make it. Will they install the door?
That's what this letter is for, is moving the current thing there and installing a door for that, yes. It's an odd size, so he said that, and he referred to Dalton Overhead Doors, who he deals with, and they're so far back ordered. That's what he ended up writing, handwritten letter to me, and that's the best I could get from anybody.
And that does not include the painting of the structure?
That was just for the door, yes.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Just a comment I would like to say, it is hard to get a contractor. Anything. I was talking to someone the other day, and their furniture was on back order for over a year. It's hard to get things done. So he did say I don't know if you've been working since 2018 or you just started.
No,
6 months ago.
Truthfully, it's been since July. When I received that letter in July, was to me, again, I don't want to go into personal things, but I had a lot going on up until last year. And actually last year started with my mother. So since 2018, what's y'all working with?
Well, I can understand this COVID backup stuff.
It
I
took us
can
over a year to
understand
get a
that.
playground.
And also, if he's in contract for 6 to 8 months to get a door delivered, I would give him more time on that if he had a contract signed. But this is not a contract, this is just kind of a rough estimate here.
I feel like we're getting into a lot, though, the last few months of people who have had it. I understand the COVID crisis, but there were also, for almost every single one of these cases, it's been years before COVID came about that they were notified. In this case, every case we've had proof that it was years of no compliance or no attempts at compliance. And I'm not trying to come down specifically, I'm just kind of saying that as a board that we've, at some point, that should be brought into at least the thinking. And so I would be, just to throw something out there, because he has made attempts since July, I think I would be okay with giving him a month to try to get something specific, like we did in the last case, where we have a month time to have either a signed contract as well as a painting contract or some other thing to remedy the structure.
Could I ask one question? Do you have people that I can call? Because no one in this area is doing it. And I have
That's
called
not really our purpose. Unfortunately,
understand that,
in
but I need-
2018, the situation may have been better. I'm not exactly sure because I just don't know. But right now, this is what we have to do. And we don't have a timeline for when people are going to have time, I guess. That's not really our place to decide. Well, so I'm thinking that we could give a month, but I feel like we can't let it go on forever. So I would not be averse to saying let's suspend the penalty until we get a plan for all of this to be done, and then if we have it next month, we forego the penalty in lieu of having the repairs done.
I'll second.
You want to make a motion on that?
I'll make the motion, yes.
Okay, you want to restate it?
Well, I don't know if this is correct, but I'll make a motion that we give Mr. Kimberlin 1 month's time to either fix or have contracts in place and then to waive the $500 administrative penalty.
For now.
For now, yes, I don't like, yes.
Until the 30 days.
For the 30 days.
And a second?
Second.
Janet seconded.
Second?
She seconded.
Place the motion on the floor. Any comments? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Kimberlin, come in here with a plan in the next 30 days, because we will make you pay that $500 if you're not doing it. So, okay, thank you.
Motion adjourned.
So moved.
Oh, second.
Did you want to talk some more?
Janet said that, and I second her.
Oh.
You spoke first.
Aye.
What a meeting. Oh, my God.
Meeting adjourned. Meeting adjourned, gang. Good meeting as usual. A lot of activity here in our meeting.